How are you, students? How are you doing this day? In grade 12 evolution, we are going to describe, or we are going to learn about the theories of evolution, some evidences of evolution, human evolution, and evolution on human races. We are going to discuss the first parts on evolution. When you say evolution, it describes how various life forms are originated, including human beings in this planet Earth. Evolution, or studying about evolution, starts from the origin of life up to the current biodiversity in our world. In evolution, there always be extinction and new species arisal happens. The change in genetic material of organisms, or the gene pool, change in the gene pool of a population, results may be due to 4 reasons. Changing the genetic material of the population as a whole means evolution. So evolution occurs due to 4 main reasons. Meiosis is one of the reasons for evolution to occur. Meiosis, as you remember, is a formation of sex cells or gamete cells. Meiosis is one of type of cell division which results 4 daughter cells from a single parent cell with having half number of chromosome or haploid cell formation. During meiosis, when gametes segregates, or when sister chromatids and homologous chromosomes isolates, there may be some failure of chromosomes or failure of chromatids to separate during anaphase stage. This results production or arising of new type of gametes. By the way, meiosis results gametes, and we have said that gametes are a source of genetic variation. The second reason why mutation occurs is hybridization. Hybridization means crossing over of different varieties of organisms to produce a new variety. The third reason that causes evolution is natural selection. Nature by itself selects organisms which are best fits. The strongest and the fastest organisms survive. The fourth reason for evolution to occur is mutation. As we have discussed in lesson of mutation, we have said that mutation is the raw material for evolution. A spontaneous change in the genetic material of organisms produces new species. Those new species are the result of mutation. So these are the 4 reasons why evolution takes place. In evolution, we are going to see different theories for evolution. But majorly, we can categorize these theories into 2. The first one are theories for origin of life, and the second one are theories for evolution. Let's see the first major category of theory for evolution, which is theories about the origin of life, how life is originated in Earth. Among these theories, we are going to see 6 different types of theories for origin of life. The first one is a special creationism theory. In special creationism theory, it claims that different life forms on Earth are created by supreme being. This is very related with religion or faith. Next, we are going to see the 5 different theories about the creationism theories. There are 5 different creationism theories. When you start with the first theory of creationism, it's called young Earth creationism theory. The young Earth creationism theory states that Earth is only few thousands of years old, and Earth was created in 6 24 hours days. It agrees, this theory agrees with Earth is around and it rotates around the sun. The second theory of a special creationism theory is old Earth creationism. This theory is very opposite with the previous one, which is the young Earth creationism theory. It states that Earth is old. But this theory is very similar with the concept of the previous one in such a way that all life forms were created by God. The third theory of special creationism is day, age, and gap creationism theory. This theory states that there is a million or billion years gap between the creation of Earth and the creation of life. Let's proceed to the third creationism theory, which is called progressive creationism, the fourth one, progressive creationism. This theory it accepts the Big Bang theory as the origin of the universe. Our universe is created by a Big Bang, and this theory accepts the fossil records, which are used as an evidence. The fifth and the last type of theory for creationism is evolutionary creationism. This theory accepts that our world and life on Earth is created by God. But at the same time, the supreme power or God also invented evolution. Is it clear so far, students? Good. Let's proceed to the next one. The next theory for origin of life on Earth. This is theory of spontaneous generation. I hope this idea is not new for you, because you have discussed about it in your grade 11. The theory of spontaneous generation is proposed by Aristotle, who is a philosopher, not a scientist. On his philosophy, he states that all living things arise from non-living things by free cell formation, by spontaneous generation. Non-living things spontaneously arise to living things by free cell formation. This was his idea. But this idea was proved wrong, or this idea was disproved by some experimental practices or by some scientists like Louis Pasteur, Francisco Redi, and Spallanzani. These three scientists conducted a research whether lives came from living things or non-living things. Louis Pasteur have conducted a research on microorganisms. Francisco Redi have conducted a research on rotten meats, and Spallanzini have also conducted on microorganisms. Are microorganisms come from non-living things or living things? Or are this housefly came from the rotten meats or from living things? On their research, they proved that all living things arise from pre-existing life like it. So this idea is disproved by these three scientists. Let's proceed to the next. The next one is theory of eternity of life. In this theory, the theory states that there is no beginning and there is no end for life on earth. That means life is an inherent property of the universe. Some supporters like Albert Einstein believe that the universe is unchanging. It's not dynamic. It's constant. The next theory on origin of life is cosmozoan theory. This theory states that life has reached our planet Earth from other planets by cosmological structures such as meteorites or comets. This theory was proposed by Richter, and he was supported by a famous scientist who is called Arrhenius and some contemporary scientists. Even if this theory states life came from another planet, and the theory doesn't show evidences, this theory is also disproved or rejected. The fifth theory on the evolution, on the origin of life, is biochemical theory. This theory is the most recent type of theory, and sometimes this theory is called abiogenesis. This theory was proposed by two very famous or known scientists. The first one is Alexander Oparin, who is Russian, and the second one is John Haldane, who is an English scientist. And on their statements, they have emphasized that life appeared after a period of chemical reactions according to physical and chemical laws. These chemical reactions are called biochemical reactions. They said that, or they thought that, the conditions on the primitive Earth were not the same as the present condition. And they believed that there was no spontaneous generation of life today because the necessary conditions were not longer exist. In their thoughts, they have put some assumptions for the condition on the early Earth. And they say that the atmosphere of the early Earth or the primitive Earth, there was no free oxygen in the atmosphere, and there was no ozone. This showed that there was no living things at the early Earth time. Because if there is no oxygen, as you know, in the current time, the atmospheric oxygen is the result of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the reaction which takes place in plants, which are living things. Because living organisms are found now, there is plenty of oxygen in the atmosphere. But at that time, at the primitive Earth, because there was no plants or photosynthetic organisms, there was no oxygen. If there is no photosynthetic organisms, there was no heterotrophism as well. So the primitive Earth's atmosphere was a mixture of 4 different gases. The first one is free hydrogen, which is in diatomic form, and saturated hydrides like methane, ammonia, and water as a vapor form. These 4 different gases make a mixture of gases in the atmosphere of primitive Earth. So these 4 gases have undergone chemical reactions. As you know, for every chemical reaction, we need energy, like activation energy and so on. That energy was obtained from electric discharges from thunderstorm and solar radiation, UV radiation from solar energy. How UV radiation enters to our atmosphere? As we have discussed before, our primitive atmosphere was in lack of ozone. So there is nothing which resists UV to enter to our environment. So it comes to our environment freely. So the energy from UV makes those 4 gases to react each other. And they assume that our Earth's surface was probably hotter, very hot condition than today. This hot condition makes those 4 gases to react each other and form organic biochemical molecules. Let's proceed. The theory of Alexander Oparin and John Haldane, also supported by Miller and Urey. Miller and Urey have conducted a research in vitro. In vitro condition is a condition when experiments are done in the laboratory, in a test tube. Such kind of condition is called in vitro condition. So by their research on reaction of those primitive atmosphere gases, hydrogen, methane, ammonia, and water vapor, they have boiled the water in order to get gases, and they let the vapor to circulate in the reaction tunnel, and they have produced some products. By making those 4 gases to react each other, they have produced organic biochemical molecules. After 7 days or after a week, they have produced 15 different types of amino acids. Not only amino acids, but they have also produced ethanoic acid, lactic acid, pentose sugar, hexose sugars, and also urea. These are very important as a component of living things. Not only this one, later similar type of experiments have done by using carbon dioxide. And Miller and Urey have also produced nucleotides. You know, nucleotides are components or monomers of nucleic acids like RNA and DNA. You know, RNA and DNA are genetic materials which store the genetic composition of an organism permanently. Nowadays, DNA and RNA are one of the components of a nucleus, especially DNA, which stores permanent genetic information of organisms. The sixth type of theory for origin of life is endosymbiont theory or endosymbiosis theory. You remember this theory in your grade 11, unit 4, how eukaryotic cells have evolved from prokaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells have appeared before 4 billion years ago, and they have evolved through time to eukaryotic cells. This endosymbiosis theory is proposed by Lynn Margulis. How prokaryotic cells have evolved into prokaryotic cells by different processes. So, the first organism to be appeared in our earth, to be evolved in our earth, is believed to had RNA rather than DNA. Then, in the process of evolution, RNA is believed to be evolved into DNA. They gave rise the first organisms which are evolved at the primitive time. They are evolved to 3 distinct lines of evolution. The first one is archaebacteria, which includes sulfobacteria or sulfur processing bacteria, methanobacteria, they use methane as a source of energy, and halophilic bacteria. These bacteria are salt-loving bacteria. Halo means indicates for salt, and philic, loving. That means such kind of bacteria are marine bacteria. The second type of bacteria, lines of evolution, is eubacteria. Eu means true, and bacteria, true bacteria. This includes prokaryotes, ordinary bacteria, and cyanobacteria, which sometimes is called blue-green algae. The third line of evolution is eukaryotes. As I have told you before, eu means true, karyo means nucleus. These cells are true membrane-bounded nucleus. This includes protoctistans, fungi, plants, and animals. Have you seen how the first organism is diverged into 3 lines of evolutions? Good. Let's proceed. By this way, organisms are evolved and current biodiversity reaches up to climax. Now, this one is the second major category of theories of evolution, which discusses about how life is changed gradually in our earth. The second category of theories of evolution is having 3 theories, or there are 3 theories discussed here. The first one is Lamarck's theory. The second one is the Darwin's theory. And the third one is the Neo-Darwinism theory. Let's see these 3 types of theories of evolution or theories of gradual change one by one. Let's see the Lamarck's theory. Lamarck's theory is developed by a French biologist called Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. And this theory is sometimes known as theory of acquired inheritance of organisms. This theory claims that organisms passed on the subsequent generation. Traits are acquired during their lifetime. He may show some example on giraffes. Giraffes, as you know, are organisms having long neck. But he said that giraffes developed this long neck in order to reach on the top of trees, in order to grasp some food. In their lifetime, if a giraffe experiences to eat food from the longer trees, they extend their neck frequently. If they extend their neck frequently, they develop a long neck. Long neck. But when giraffes having short necks, they have an experience to eat a short tree. By this way, they develop a longer neck, and they inherit that longer neck to their offspring. In his theory, he have proposed 4 important postulates. The first postulate states that living organisms and their organs tend continually to increase in size, and new organs results from new needs and desires. By this way, those organs will develop due to use and degenerate due to disuse. This is his theory of use and disuse. Organs which are most frequently used have a greater chance to develop, and organs which have not most frequently used have a great chance to degenerate or extinct. And giraffes by this way inherit those traits to their offspring. But his idea was just an idea with no evidence. Since the Lamarck's theory, there was no reliable evidence, this theory is rejected. Let's see the second theory of evolution. It's called Darwin's theory. Darwin is the father of evolution. His theory is called theory of natural selection. In his theory, all organisms are descended from a common ancestor. All organisms, including microorganisms and multicellular organisms, birds, amphibians, mammals, all organisms in the world have a common distant ancestor in his theory. And the complex creatures evolve from more simplistic ancestor naturally over time or gradually. Theory of natural selection states that natural selection eliminates inferior species gradually over time, and the stronger and the fastest organisms will have a great chance to survive. This was the concept of Darwin, Charles Darwin. On his journey to Galapagos Island, he have observed different varieties of finches. Finches are birds which have different varieties, but their genetic material was similar genetic material with different variety. Their variety is feeding diversity based on the type of beaks they have. As you can see in this figure, we have different types of finches. Their genetic material was the same, but their beak type was different. This indicates these finches these different types of finches have different types of feeding habits, but they are arised from common ancestor. So, in his conclusion, organisms struggle to exist. How they struggle? Because if they reproduce largely, or if there is over-reproduction, there is a scarcity of food or resources, or shortage of food. So in order to overcome that scarcity of food, they compete each other. Interspecific competition or intraspecific competition. This competition brings an evolution, or this competition may result to organisms to evolve and adapt. Okay, students, the third theory for evolution is Neo-Darwinism. It is an incorporated knowledge between genetics, natural selection, and animal behavior. All alleles of a gene determine a feature. The strongest and the dominant the allele is, the greater the organism having a chance to survive. And the gene pool of the population determines the survival chance. In the gene pool, the more the advantageous alleles present in the gene pool, the more the organism having the chance to survive. And it is just the physical features that can confer an advantage, but the behavior pattern can also be advantageous. Example, imprinting. Goose follow the first moving objects. They follow their mother. If they follow their mother, this is one of the preventive. They protect themselves against predation. So they have a great chance to survive if they follow their mother. Imprinting is one of the examples. Have you got the students? Very nice. For our today's lesson, thank you, and stay safe, stay home.